Alright, if you own one of these Harbor Freight quick hitches, I'm sure you'd realize that what comes with the hitch just doesn't work with the Category 1 implements. And there's a quick and easy way to fix the issues. Some people like to weld the hook in place or weld, parts in here to fix it up. I did a lot of research, looked at all my implements, and not a single one of them had the same style hookup. So I couldn't do any kind of welding to this structure and continue to use it with all my other implements. And so I just thought about it for a while and realized what would make this work the best. And I ended up making some spacers that slip over the hook on the bottom, change it from a Category 2 spacing to a Category 1. And then when you release, these plates here that hold the pin down come right over the top of the pin and lock it in place. And then instead of using the upper hook, which I could actually use this upper hook with the king cutter pin because it's got a big enough pin there, the issue is the holes are drilled here and they should be about an inch further back, so that would give enough room for the bolts to be there, and then also for the hook to slide up over the pin. Because I do want to be able to use this in case I get more implements that use the Category 2 top type pin right here for the quick hitch, which is supposed to be about 15.5 inches from these pins. And so it would always be the bottom 2 holes, or if I found where this wasn't going to work, what I have now, then I could use this. But what I plan to do is find a way to store it here. So the bracket I made, this is just 3/8 thick, and I'm gonna cut another one and weld them together. And I might cut 3 so it equals 1 1/8. But I've been out using it with just this 3/8 piece here and abusing it, and it's working just fine. So I might just do the 2 and leave it at 3/4. So anyways, what I did was I just measured how far I could get away with sliding something underneath here and on all my attachments, and then made sure that it would fit this 3/4 inch pin perfectly so there was no slop. Because the biggest problem with these using the Category 2 hook that are on both pieces is that it just too much wiggle, too much slop. It makes so much noise, and it's bad enough that there's already a lot of slop in the 3-point. So then you're just compounding it. A lot of slop in the blade. So it just gets really sloppy and the blade just ends up jumping all over the place. So I eliminated that by locking the pins in as much as I can. And I'm not worried about this one jumping out because those bottom pins are locked in. They're not going anywhere. So once I make another one of these plates, my next plan is going to be to weld a handle to these 2 pins so they can slide out together. I'll get shorter pins, or I'll cut these down and I'll drill new holes, and then I'll just run a single cotter pin down through both of them. And that way I don't have to worry about running bolts, loosening nuts, make it as quick as possible, because if I end up switching between this plate and the hook, once I modify it, I don't want to be out there with a wrench losing bolts into the dirt. I'd rather just have a quick pin, unhook everything, and away I go. Anyways, continue on watching and you'll see the steps that I took to make these spacers. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. See you guys later. connection point for the quick hitch, 3-point quick hitch. And even though it's a category 1 quick hitch, it has this large connection point here, which Everything Attachments video explains that it's for a category 2 3-point, and this is a category 1 tractor, and so it doesn't really make much sense to have the category 2 connection point on this quick hitch. And I didn't want to go and put spacers on every single one of my attachments, or bushings, or whatever you want to call them. And the easiest way I found to solve this issue was to cut a bunch of these little J brackets that go in here, and I'll weld them all together and then make a quick and easy way to get them on there. But that pretty much takes up all the space, and it will sure it up quite a bit. As long as I maintain the 15.5 inches between the hook and these lower hooks, it should work just fine. Here they are welded up. Next thing to do is put the cap on, but fits in there, takes up all the space. Alright, so that's what I got right here, all welded up. It's not the prettiest thing I've ever made, but it will get the job done. And we can show you. Slides right in, nice and tight fit. So with it in the open position, it's not balanced, so I can't hold it and film this at the same time. Let's see if I can do this. So hold it nice and tight. See how that works when I get the other one done here. The main reason why I went with these little spacer caps is because every attachment I have is slightly different, and I didn't want to be locked down to just using this with the one attachment that it fits. So I did get this idea partly from Dave Knows How. He welded in some 1/4 inch steel, which filled in the gap quite a bit, and his is a different brand, maybe like an Everything Attachments brand or something, because he doesn't have the hook issue that the Harbor Freight one does. His is spaced out quite a ways, and then he also added some steel bar in there to fill in the gap. Alright, I have this broken 3-point attachment here that I got from my backyard. I don't know what it used to be, and I was planning on using it for something someday. I just don't know what yet. But right now I'm using it for mock-up. And I have my spacers in. And I think, so if you left the top pin out of your 3-point attachment when you connected your bottom 2 pins, and then lined it up to accept the pin, you could use this as it is, because the bolts wouldn't be in the way in this kind of configuration. There is quite a bit of slop here, meant for a much larger pin. But like this, you could weld a piece of 1/2 inch bar in there or something, and it would take up the gap. But I think I'm gonna just fab up a smaller hook, one that will slide underneath this bar or under this pin, and so when you raise up the 3-point hitch, it's going to fall into place. And once you lock these handles down, these pins are locked in place, so this pin can't go up and down, and that way it won't matter how deep the slot is here, as long as it's enough to hold the pin in place, you know, because there's not a whole lot of slop either. It's a little bit, more than I would want. My whole goal here is just to eliminate as much slop as possible, because when you're out using this thing and going back and forth with moving snow or whatever, it's really loud, it's really noisy.